Good morning, everyone. How are you all? I'm Heshanka Janani. I'm fourth year student of Faculty of Communication and Business Studies, Trincomalee Campus, Department of Languages and Communication Studies, Department Trincomalee Campus in Eastern University. So, first of all, I would like to convey my sincere gratitude for Dr. Nirupa Jayasundara for giving this platform to us. So, today I'm going to talk about nasalization. Under the nasalization, I'm going to talk about nasal sound, nasalized sound, and phonological role for nasalization, phonetic transcription of nasalization, nasalization in comparative context, and with the small Q&A session, and I conclude the lesson. So, now let's move to my first slide, nasal sound. Before we move into the nasal sound, I'm going to tell about very briefly how these nasal sounds are produced with our vocal with our organs. So we know in our second year we have learned we had a subject called phonetics, and under the phonetic we have learned about the study of the human speech sound, and the production of speech sound can be described according to the three branches. There are articulated phonetics, acoustic phonetic, and auditory phonetics. So under the auditory phonetics, we focuses on how speech sounds are perceived and processed by the human auditory system. Under the acoustic phonetic, we examine the physical properties of speech sound, primarily focusing on their transmission and reception as wave or sound. Under the articulated phonetics, we have learned about production of speech sound with the involving manner of articulation, place of articulation, and the voice or voiceless sounds. So, with the articulated phonetics, we have learned about how the sounds are organized, how the sounds are produced by our by the air. It means we have talked about the mechanism of the sound production in air produced by the lungs, and then it air passing to the vocal tract, and it passing through the mouth. While it passing through the mouth, the air completely or slightly or one part of blocking, we call it as the manner of articulation, and with the involves the organs like soft palate, tongue, and the both lips, and we can produce a sound. So when our air passing through the vocal tract, with the vibration of vocal cords or without the vibration of vocal cords, we can produce voice sound or voiceless sound. We already know about that. So when the air passing through our oral may when the air passing through the vocal tract, that when the velum is lowered, then oral cavity is closed, and then the our air passing through the nasal cavity, and then it becomes nasal sound. When the velum is raised, then the nasal cavity is closed, and then the oral cavity is open, then our air passing through the oral cavity. That's how nasal sounds are, oral sounds are produced. So you can we can take an example like up sound. When we are producing the up sound, you can imagine the air produced by the lungs, and then it coming passing through the vocal tract, and then when we produce the up sound, our vocal cords are not vibrating, then it becomes a voiceless sound, and then it comes across the oral cavity, and then involving the both lips, we can produce the up sound. That is the mechanism of the sound production. So I told you about the sounds that involve airflow through the nose are categorized as nasal sound. So the nasals are actually fourth manner of articulation. There are some stop sounds, fricative and affricative. So under the fourth manner of articulation, we can identify the nasal sound. So a nasal sound is produced with a lowered velum, allowing air to flow through the nose. So as I told you about, when the velum is lowered, then air passing through the nasal cavity, and then oral cavity is closed, and the nasal cavity is open, then air passing through the nasal cavity, then we can produce nasal sound. So these nasals are actually voiced because the vibration of the vocal cords. So the velar, also known as the soft palate, is a part of the roof of the mouth located behind the hard palate. We know about that. And I have to mention one thing. The first sound actually acquired by children are nasal sound. As in example, when the child birth, they can firstly hear sounds like mother, amma, ma, or like lullaby, like like lullaby. So these all the things are acquired. These are produced with the nasal sound. So the first sounds acquired by children are nasal sound. Um so if you make a ugh, can you keep the previous slide, Krisha? So if you make a ugh or ugh sound, you can feel the body of your tongue and come in contact with your velar. So this structure is raised during oral sound to block air from coming out the nose. During the nasal sound, it lowered to let air flow freely through the nose. So if you pay special attention to what's happening in the back of your mouth when you produce sound versus you can feel your velar moving to control airflow to the nasal cavity. So you can clearly see the picture of nasal articulation and oral articulation. Uh, can we move to the next slide? Yeah. In phonetic, nasal sounds can be categorized into nasal consonant and nasalized vowel. So, the term nasal consonants generally refers to nasal stops. Actually, the nasal consonants, such as we can identify three major nasal consonants, um, un, un, where nasal airflow is primary feature. As in example, in mode, n in neck, and in song. So in here, I have mentioned about some IPA symbol, International Phonetic Alphabet, and the place of articulation for representing the nasal consonants, bilabial alveolar and velar are some of them. So like the oral stop, nasal stops involve a constriction in the vocal tract that completely cut off airflow to the mouth. So the only differences is the nasal stop allow air to flow through the nose. If you try to produce the nasal stop and airflow to those is blocked for any reason, it will come out as a oral stop. So we can get an example like you want to say, Mom, I'm not feeling good. But you have a stuffy nose. You can imagine that you have a stuffy nose. Then it turns into, Bob, I'm not feeling good, like that. So I think you may get an idea about what are the nasal sound. Now let's move on to the nasalized vowels. So nasalization is a crucial aspect of phonology that significantly influences how sounds are produced and perceived in language. Nasalization refers to the process in which a sound, usually a vowel, is produced with airflow through the nose. Uh, in earlier, I have mentioned when we want to produce nasal sound, it means our velum is lower, then the oral cavity is blocked, and then the air passing through the nasal cavity. Then it becomes nasal sound. And when we want to produce oral sound, then the velum is raised and the nasal cavity is closed and the oral cavity is open. Then we can produce oral sound. But in nasalized sound, it means when the velum is lowered, it allowing the airflow to pass through the both nasal and oral cavity. That's how nasalized sounds are produced. On the other hand, it occurs when the vowels are influenced by adjacent nasal consonant. Actually, English does not have a phonemic nasalized vowel because it does not convey the distinctive meaning in English. Because of that, we call nasalization in English as an allophone due to its a variation of a phoneme. But in some languages, they are phonemic nasalized due to it change in the meaning. As example, in French, Portuguese, they have some phonemic nasalized due to the change in the meaning. And any vowel can be nasalized. It means all the vowels we can be categorized as nasalized vowels according to the adjacent nasal consonant. So next slide. We can see some example. You can compare these pair of words. What are the nasalized vowels and what are the non-nasalized vowels? In here, cat, actually I is a vowel. It is a fricative. It is not a consonant. It is not a nasal consonant. So it is not a nasalized vowel. In pet, it is also not a nasalized vowel. But in here, uk, a, n, can, a is a vowel, n is a nasal consonant. Because of this adjacent nasal consonant, this a becomes nasalized vowel. In here, cat, it also does not nasalized features. In pen, it is a nasalized e, and in pot, it is not nasalized. In mean, actually e is a nasalized vowel. In man, in a is a nasalized vowel. In sing, e is a nasalized vowel. In seem, e is a nasalized vowel because of the adjacent nasal consonant. Next slide. Yeah, I have provided a example. I have taken this from a very famous cartoon, Looney Tunes. Actually, in here, the main character is Speedy Gonzales. Please listen carefully how the Speedy Gonzales and other friends are talking. They are how they're talking with the nasalized sound. Chris, can you play the video?
That's all the water we need. And we're not leaving any for those dirty rodents. Oh, Toledos. He is going to blow up the well. Well, what we gonna do? We gonna die of thirst. That's what we gonna do. Giddy up, camel. Bums away. Adios.
Yeah, I think now you have a clear idea about what are the nasal sound and what are the nasalized sound. Now let's move on to my
That's all the water
topic. Phonological rule for nasalization. What are the phonological rule for nasalization I'm going to talk about? So, nasalization in English typically follows predictable phonological rules. What is this predictable phonological rules? Actually, how English speakers pronounce sound with a nasal quality, it is not a random. Instead, there are specific patterns that govern when nasalization happens. So these patterns are called phonological rules. So nasalized sounds are perceived only in the colloquial aspect of language. It means we have seen this, we can see this in a spoken language. The most common rule is regressive assimilation. Actually, we can call this one as anticipatory nasalization. In this, actually, this is the most common rule. It describes how vowels become partially nasalized when they appear before a nasal consonant un, or within a same syllable. So you can get the example in here, can, a, an. Actually, in here, a vowel might have a touch of nasalization, like we pronounce like cam, like that. Instead, we have some example. We can get the pin. It's also like in pin, e vowel might pronounce slightly nasalized at pin, like that. And another one, progressive assimilation, where a vowel becomes nasalized due to a preceding nasal consonant. Actually, it is not in English, but we can see it in other contexts of languages like French, Portuguese, like that. But on the other hand, there is another rule, but it is not the obligatory one, it is optional one. We can call it like nasal deletion. So this rule applies in some cases where a nasal consonant is followed by a voiceless stop consonant ut, within the same syllable. As in example, we can get a word like camp. In here, it might be pronounced as camp. cap with the M deleted. Likewise. So these are the some phonological rule for nasalization. And I have to mention that these are the main rules. So nasalization in English can be more complex and influenced by other factors like speaking rate and regional accents. So now let's move on to my next slide, phonetic transcription of nasalization. So the phonetic transcription uses diacritic to indicate nasalization. In the International Phonetic Alphabet, a tilde, we call it like a tilde, placed over a vowel denotes that the vowel is nasalized. You can here see some example. First, can, uk, nasalized a and un. Second one, man, a, in here, a is a nasalized a. Third one, kind, uk, a, ud, nasalized a. The fourth one, winter, o, e, ut, winter. In here, e is a nasalized e. Pond, u, o, pond. In here, also o is a nasalized vowel. These are the phonetic transcription of nasalization. Now let's talk about nasalization in comparative context. Actually, I have mentioned about nasalization is not a phonemic in English. Actually, it's like an allophone because of it is a variation of a phoneme. But in some cases, there are nasalization in phonemic. So English is mostly contextual and does not change the meaning of the word in nasalization. That's why it does not become a phonemic in English. But in some languages have phonemic nasalization. It means there are change in the meaning with the nasalization. Example, French and Portuguese. On this example, ocean, we have pronounced like we can pronounce this word o, ish, an ocean. But in French, we have pronounce this ozio. In here, in ozio, o is a nasalized o is another meaning, and without nasalized o is another meaning. And next slide. Yeah, in French, like I have told you about before, nasal vowels are phonemic and can change the meaning of the word. In French, the nasalized vowel sounds are typically followed by an or that is not pronounced separately. I have mentioned some three example. First one, it is pronounced as wa. So the phonetic transcription, you can see o and o. So in here, the vowel is nasalized and it distinct from its oral counterpart. The second one, bon, that's how we pronounce that. The phonetic transcription, bo. So the vowel o is nasalized, and without nasalized o, there indicate another meaning. In third example, we can pronounce it sa. So in the phonetic transcription, so the a is nasalized, and without a, there is another meaning. Now I think you may get a clear idea about what are the nasal sound and what are the nasalized sound. So now I will provide a small Q&A session. I think you could give the answers for these little corrections. So first one is, which of the following word contains a nasalized vowel? Anyone? Do you know the answer? You can answer. Okay, I will provide the answer. Actually, the answer is B. Which one of the following word contains nasalized vowel? Answer is B because of the E vowel, and un is a nasal consonant. Because of the adjacent nasal consonant, the E becomes nasalized vowel. The second question is, in which word is nasal vowel are found? Is anyone know the answer? You can give the answer. Yeah, second question. The answer is three sounds. We know the vowels. So we know the vowels because we have learned about the vowels when we are learning the phonetics. When we were learning the phonetics. So the answer is three. C sounds. Third question. English vowels become nasalized when followed by a nasal consonant like or in the same syllable. Is it true or false? Actually, it is true. English vowel become nasalized because of the adjacent nasal consonants. Fourth one, nasalization in English can change the meaning of word similar to some other languages. No, it is a false because nasalization in English, it is not a phonemic. It is a allophone. It is just an allophone. But there are some languages like French and Portuguese. Their nasalization is phonemic. So now I think you may get a proper idea about the nasal sound, the mechanism of the nasal sound, and the nasalized sound, and the mechanism of the nasalized sound, and when what are the phonological rule for the nasalized sound. So let's move on to the conclusion part. So the nasalization is a human phonological process. Actually, it is a fundamental phonological process that affect both consonants and vowels, influencing how sounds are produced and perceived. And nasalized vowels occur when vowels are influenced by adjacent nasal consonant, and it is not allophonic. Not it is a mostly allophonic, not a phonemic. But in some languages, it is a phonemic. Identify the correct nasalization issues is essential in speech pathology. Actually, it is understanding nasalization can aid in pronunciation and listening comprehension. So I think you have the good idea about the nasalization. These are the references where I have got the information. So thank you for being with me. Thank you, everyone.